Let's talk about communication. Communication should lead to community, or in other words, communication, common understanding, should lead to common unity, a greater sense of belonging to one another and being on the same page. Amos 3:3 says, "Can two people walk together unless they agree upon the direction in which they're headed?" And that's the purpose of conversations. It's just a conversing or an exchanging back and forth of persuading each other. Where are we going? What are we going to do when we get there? And ultimately, communication should end with the resolve. This is our next step together. So whenever you're talking to your friends, your family, your relationships, or communicating in your organization or in your teams, communication should always bring a greater sense of community. Now, some things stand in the way of that. Part of the problem is that we have a world full of people talking, but very few are communicating. You can talk, you can throw things out there all the time, but is it landing? And is that person understanding what you're saying and responding from that same level of understanding? And are you hearing them? Communication should bring us together, not tear us apart. And we find ourselves in arguments all the time. And all an argument is just a person trying to be heard. Right? And so what happens when arguments go toxic or get intense or get heated or even sometimes maybe get violent? It's because you're not hearing me, so I raise my voice. And even if I did get my point across, what did it end up costing the relationship that we had? Communication should bring healing, not hurt and pain. So what are some things that we can do to strengthen that? I'd love to share tons more tips, and I'll do that over the upcoming videos. But today, I just want to share one tip with you, and it's called prepare them for communication. Let's say I walk into a room, and I have this football with me, and as soon as I walk into the room, I say, "Hey, catch this," and I throw it straight at you. Okay? Odds are you're not going to catch that unless you're just an incredible athlete or got great reflexes. You're probably not going to catch it. But let's say I walk into the same room with the same football and I throw it at you. But before I do that, I say, "Hey, can you turn around? Can you open your hands? I'm going to throw this at you." And I toss it softly and you're able to catch it. Both times I threw the exact same thing or the exact same phrase, the exact same communication. The first time you dropped it because I didn't prepare you. The second time you caught it because you were ready for it. A lot of times when we're communicating, we think we're clearly communicating, but honestly, we're just throwing things at people because we didn't consider, man, what type of day or frame of mind are they in? What are they walking through? And so they aren't prepared to catch what we're throwing. And then we get frustrated at them. "Hey, why didn't you do what I told you to do?" Well, did you consider where they're coming from? So part of the art of communication is first compassion towards that person, thinking about their situation, and then coming from a vantage point of framing or preparing them for what you have to say. So parts of the ways that you can do that is you can simply say, "Hey, I need to find a later time to connect with you about this." You know, one of the toxic statements is when we walk into a room and say, "Hey, can I talk to you?" Well, what does that just put that person in? It makes them fearful, maybe negative. So in a better way to go about it would be, "Hey, can I get your input on something?" Or, "I want to run something by you." And when you do phrases like that, you're actually making them positive about the conversation before it starts instead of immediately stepping into it afraid or negative. These are just some simple tips to start with of preparing people to catch what you're throwing. Instead of hurting our relationships, our marriages, our spouse, our friendships, our children, or even our teams, just throwing things at them, why not prepare them for what you're communicating?